the earth, and the deep snow piled above thee, far, far removed, cold in the dreary grave. Have I forgot my only love to love thee, severed at last by time's all-severing wave?
On empty fields of rugged moorland, where nature prevails and all else expires, in this vast terrain, where the unforgiving and ominous landscape can, at times, threaten the intrepid traveller, almost retaliatory, it seems, to those venturing to traverse her. Close by sits the picturesque village of Haworth, with cobbled streets lined with quaint shops, historic pubs, and where friends go for refreshments and unwind after having taken to the moors for their craggy moorland adventure. However, there is something else worth noting about this place, with its infectious atmosphere and the beauty which quenches her, and that is, it's the literary home of the Brontes. I don't know about you, but when it comes to the Brontes for me, it feels like a three-pronged attack of brilliance.
There was no possibility of taking a walk that day.
It was also being described as manipulative, controlling. I know this sounds harsh and somewhat controversial, but this may have driven the others on. Then there's Emily.
Be with me always. Take any form, drive me mad. Only do not leave me in this abyss where I cannot find you.
However insular she may have appeared, she was anything but uninteresting or uninterested. Also caring, producing some of the greatest and most formidable poetry I've ever read. And Anne.
I often cry when I am happy and smile when I am sad.
A sister who could in fact be the one that produced the most complete novel, and possibly, some would argue, to be the most talented of the three. Welcome to the Crimson Collective, where on this channel we investigate and walk in the footsteps of history, and in this video we explore the home of the Brontes and some of the places that may have inspired their work. Join us in Walking History. With the exception of older siblings Maria and Elizabeth, who were born elsewhere in Liversedge, the sisters and brother Brownwell were born here in Thornton, 6 miles up the road to Haworth, to parents Maria and Patrick. But it was in Haworth where the Bronte story sprang into life. The family moved into the parsonage in 1820 after Patrick had been offered the position of Reverend of Haworth Church, now St Michael and All Angels, and served there as the perpetual curate from 1820 right up until his death in 1861. Unfortunately for Maria, she was to die in 1821 due to what is thought to have been cancer. This left Patrick alone, trying to raise the children and juggling his new responsibilities at Haworth Church. He therefore called upon the help of Maria's sister, who was based in Penzance in Cornwall at the time, and she subsequently relocated to the parsonage and served that household all the way up to her own death in 1842. Elizabeth, more fondly known as Aunt Bramwell. Patrick was an Irish Anglican minister. The original surname was Bronte, spelled B-R-U-N-T-Y, a variation of O'Prunty, but changed it when moving from Ireland and studying at Cambridge University in order to sound less Irish and more English when pursuing a career in the Church of England. It is said that the choice for the name Bronte may have been inspired by Admiral Lord Nelson, for whom he had great respect, when receiving his Italian dukedom and made the Duke of Bronte in 1799. After Mariah's passing, Patrick decided to move bedrooms and relocated here. This is where he was rumoured to keep a flintlock pistol under his pillow, out of fear of burglars and remembrances of the Luddite Revolution in the early part of the 19th century. In the morning, for safety, so not to leave a loaded gun around the house, he'd empty the chamber by firing out of this window and directly opposite at Haworth Church. Apparently, when asked as to why he'd shoot the church, he replied, "Because I'm safe in the knowledge the only beings that could be struck by a wayward bullet are already dead." Apologies for my Irish accent, by the way, or lack of it. It's also rumoured that the bullet holes are still detectable on the church wall if you look closely. So I'm here now in the cemetery in Haworth. Bronte Parsonage is just on this side. I'm going to show you that in a second, but I've just come out of there and it's so moving, walking history, the lives of not just the sisters but everyone else that lived at that property around that time, and the inspiration that's been passed from that property onto millions worldwide over so many years. But it's so peaceful here, everyone's so respectful to the village of Haworth. The people are really nice and really friendly, and although the sisters or family members are not all buried in the actual graveyard here, they're in the vault over in the church, which is just over there, St Michael's Church, which I'll go and show you in a second. And with the exception of Anne, who's buried in Scarborough, but the other family members are all down in the church. It's great here. It's beautiful. And on this side, the beginning of Haworth Moor, going off that way. I'm going to be going and doing that tomorrow, to Bronte Waterfall, Bronte Seat, Bronte Bridge, up to Top Withens, which supposedly was the inspiration for Wuthering Heights, where Heathcliff lived in the book, and then hopefully beyond that to Pondon Hall and Pondon Kirk, where Thrushcross Grange from Wuthering Heights is supposed to be the inspiration for that as a property. Also, it's I think important to point out as well, not only are the people lovely here and the place is just absolutely stunningly beautiful, but as you can see, there's Bronte Parsonage just there. I've just come out of there, where the sisters wrote most of those novels. But you've got the school over here, which they attempted to run as a school, but sadly couldn't get enough pupils for it to be a sustainable project going forward around that time. And then of course, just along here, we have where Patrick Bronte, the father, was working as the curate, which is just around the corner there. We're going to go and look at that now. There was someone else who played a strong part within the Bronte household, a tragic yet poignant part. Branwell, the brother, the only son, upon whom all hopes and expectations were firmly placed. It was in Patrick's bedroom, in his very bed, where his time would eventually end, plagued by a concoction of delirium tremens, laudanum and alcohol addiction, and consumption. A broken heart was also said to be a contributing factor. A woman by the name of Lydia Robinson, to whom he was sure he was destined to wed. But this dream, along with so many others, came crashing down. Anne and Branwell both worked for the Robinson family at Thorpe Green Hall, with Anne starting as a governess and later securing a tutoring position for her brother. Anne's position ended in 1845 after she resigned, fearing scandal due to Branwell's affair with Mrs. Robinson. Branwell was then dismissed from his post shortly after. He had worked as a tutor for the Robinson's son, Edmund, a role secured for him by Anne. This is where Branwell would spend a lot of his time. The landlord, upon receiving weary travellers to the Black Bull, would be embarrassed and felt he could not regale them intellectually for the evening by the fireside, so would send a boy up to the parsonage to ask Branwell to come and hold court, and in exchange he received ale and gin in the arrangement. This became a reoccurring theme, and with his heart set on being a writer, even though some would argue he was a better painter than he was a writer, he maybe started seeing himself falling apart, not only emotionally, but in the eyes of his family. This may explain why he chose to paint himself out of the portrait alongside his sisters. There is no clear evidence as to why he chose to do this, and his reasons, like the man himself, will now be lost to time. Branwell's lifestyle became a vicious circle. The apothecary, situated directly opposite the Black Bull, provided him his laudanum. Then be it the Black Bull itself or an abundance of other pubs where he was known to frequent, he would then put pen to paper, try to create that masterpiece, a novel, a poem even, something, and becoming more and more frustrated as the alcohol muddled his concentration, and compounded by haunting memories of Lydia and what could have, should have been, became a catalyst to focus on those he loved most and how he believed he was failing them, or failed them. Not only his siblings, but the one who had invested in him from birth, believed in him from childhood to adulthood, fed him on an intellectual grounding as well as financial one, and is relying on him still. This person is the person he's hurt the most, his father. This episode, culminating as it did on most nights, staggering back to the parsonage, calling for Emily at the top middle window to let him in, fearing confrontation with his father, and either bordering on rage or tears, or perhaps, on most nights, both. The experience of Branwell's final decline is conveyed in letters 18 to 24, which are currently held in the University of Leeds Library. The final letter begs John Brown to buy 5 pence worth of gin for him. It highlights the desperation of Branwell's situation shortly before his death on 24th of September 1848, aged just 31. It reads, Sunday, noon. Dear John, I shall feel very much obliged to you if you can contrive to get me 5 pence worth of gin in a proper measure. Should it be speedily got, I could perhaps take it from you or Billy at the lane top, or what would be quite as well sent out to you. I anxiously ask the favour because I know the good it will do me. Punctually at 9:30 in the morning, you will be paid the 5d out of a shilling given me then. Yours, P. B. B. In a roundabout way, Branwell's predicament most likely encouraged the sisters to think more seriously about their own. With Patrick's eyesight fading, if he were to get to the point where he was no longer able to perform his duties as a curate, then the family would have to vacate the parsonage, and would for a while at least be homeless. The breadwinner, the boy in the family, was therefore expected to find a way financially, and it was simply up to Bramwell to step up and provide. However, this didn't materialise, and therefore this potential eventuality may have been the catalyst for Charlotte, Emily and Anne to give it a go. In giving themselves a better chance by creating pseudonyms of Currer, Ellis and Acton Bell for a number of reasons, a few being to avoid gender bias, to protect their privacy and anonymity, retain creative freedom and improved marketability. In these final moments, where a wave of regret came over Bramwell, on his father's bed, as a heartbroken Emily stood at the door, it's been said in these final moments, in one last act of defiance, he supposedly died standing up. He wanted to prove the strength of the human spirit, so when he felt the end was near, he got up and died on his feet. Sorry? Morning to you too. And that's it. Last day in Haworth. It's been lovely in Haworth. Great place to come to visit. Obviously for the Bronte connection, the Bronte history is all here embedded. And that's it. So for now, until next time, Haworth, and in those perfectly written yet haunting words from Wuthering Heights, be with me always, take any form, drive me mad. Only do not leave me in this abyss where I cannot find you.